Hey everyone, are you thinking about visiting Universal Orlando's newest park, Epic Universe, but not sure if there's going to be enough for your young kids to do? Well, my name is Mike and I'm the owner of the You Preferred Universal Orlando travel agency, The Park Prodigy, and I know just how difficult planning a Universal Orlando vacation can be, and I know it could be a little bit more complicated when you're visiting with young kids. And the reason being is 7 out of the 11 rides at Epic Universe have a minimum height requirement of 40 inches or taller. However, Epic also does have two amazing shows that you will not want to miss. Some of our favorite character meet and greets, including Super Nintendo World and How to Train a Dragon, and these new things called power up bands, which might just be your secret weapon to the ultimate Epic Universe day. So, if you're thinking about that Epic Universe trip and just have not been able to make up your mind if it's worth it for your kids or not, just be sure to stick around until the end of this video as I'm about to break down everything you need to know when visiting with young kids. Thank you again so much for checking out this video. Like I said, we are about to break down the ultimate guide to visiting Epic Universe with young kids to try to figure out if it is worth it or not. So we're going to start with really the most important, and that would be, of course, making sure that you understand the height requirements at the brand new park. So first things first, the most important and the crucial thing when visiting with young kids is check the height requirements before you go. Universal has a strict height requirement for many of the rides, and this is of course for safety. So if your child is just under the minimum, they unfortunately will not be able to ride. So one of the tips here would be, of course, make sure you understand exactly how tall your kids are before you go. I would also figure out how tall and measure your kids in the shoes that they'll actually wear within the park so you understand exactly just how close it might be. And so next we're actually going to jump in and break down the height requirements for the ride so you could figure out your game plan going into your day at Epic. So there are two rides at this point in time that do not have any height requirement, and those of course are going to be Constellation Carousel in Celestial Park, and then we also have Fire Drill, which is going to be in How to Train Your Dragon Isle of Berk. But then here are the height requirements for the other rides from shortest to tallest. So we have Yoshi's Adventure in Super Nintendo World with a minimum height requirement of 34 inches tall. We have Minecart Madness with a minimum height requirement of 36 inches tall. We have Mario Kart Bowser's Challenge with a height requirement of 40 inches. I have Curse of the Werewolf, which is 40 inches tall. We have Harry Potter and the Battle of the Ministry with 40 inches tall. We have Hiccup Swing Gliders in Isle of Berk, which is 40 inches tall. We have Dragon Racers Rally in Isle of Berk, 48 inches tall. We have Stardust Racers in Celestial Park, which is 48 inches tall. And then Monsters Unchained, which is going to be 48 inches tall. So what I would say is honestly the most popular ride for young kids who are below 40 inches is probably going to be Minecart Madness. So right there, you could see Minecart Madness and then Yoshi's Adventure are going to be two of the most popular rides for families visiting with young kids. And it's important to note that those rides, Super Nintendo World is open for early park admission. So there are ways to make sure you get on those rides with shorter wait times. So definitely be sure to keep that in mind as you're planning your days. But what about the other rides, right? What about, of course, if you're a family and you have some young kids, some older kids, right? You have to mix and match and figure out a way to make it fun for everyone. And that's what this video really is all about. Don't forget about the child swap. So for families who have some kids who might be too short for some of the rides, this allows one adult to wait with the child in a designated area while the rest of the party rides, and then you essentially swap where the other adult can then go on the ride. And it allows you to avoid having to wait on the full line again. So there are a lot of the major attractions that do offer child swap, and one of the most popular ones is of course going to be the Ministry of Magic, for example, and it has a really cool area with a water bottle refill, has some benches, and even playing Harry Potter on the TV. So now let's jump into each world and let's give some of the best tips and tricks for families visiting with young kids, starting with Celestial Park. So this central area isn't just a walkthrough, it has kid-friendly fun. We're starting, of course, with Constellation Carousel, which is not just your standard carousel. Carriages rise and spin up to 6 feet, making it a cosmic experience. We also have Astronomica, which is an interactive play area in this section as well. And one of the other things that I really enjoyed about this area is look out for live music and the fountain it can also be found within this area, which has the main water fountains kind of shooting off. And it just, you could see that it's a great way to just kind of keep your kids occupied and they can kind of just enjoy the view for a little bit. Now, moving over to probably what is going to be the most popular world for families visiting with young kids, and that is Super Nintendo World. So, like I said earlier, we do have two rides that are geared really well for them, which is going to be Yoshi's Adventure, which is a gentle, scenic ride perfect for younger guests, 34 inches and below. And then, of course, Minecart Madness, which is a family fun coaster in Donkey Kong Country with fun stunts, and the minimum is 36 inches or below here. And I would say just the Donkey Kong area in general is so well themed. And you'll see right after we have the third ride, Mario Kart Bowser's Challenge, which is an augmented reality sort of Mario Kart type ride with a minimum height requirement of 40 inches tall. One of the other things that I really, really love about Super Nintendo World are the character meet and greets, and your kids will love them as well. So guests can meet Mario, Luigi, Princess Peach, Toad, and Donkey Kong. And of course, last but not least, one of your secret weapons to getting the most out of your day with young kids could be a power-up band. So one of the things that's important for me to note is power-up bands are not included with regular park admission. You do have to purchase them in order to partake in the fun. However, I do believe that they can be a great tool to make sure that you have, essentially a full day of fun. So power-up bands at this point in time cost right around $40, and then you could set them up within the Universal Orlando app. So to get the maximum fun out of your power-up band, make sure you have the official Universal Orlando app downloaded before you get down to Orlando. And essentially, what you'll be able to do is compete in challenges throughout Super Nintendo World. And the other thing that I really like as well is as you compete and you complete the challenges, you can unlock Bowser Jr.'s challenge, which is inside the castle. So this is kind of where you get to run around with the kids and they'll be able to collect digital coins, sort of like a scavenger hunt throughout Super Nintendo World. And as you can imagine, Super Nintendo World is really, really big, and this can take up a lot of time. So one of the great ways to get the most out of your day when you're visiting with young kids. Over to the next one, and probably the second most popular land for families visiting with young kids, and we have How to Train Your Dragon Isle of Berk. So you get to live like a Viking. And one of the most popular things here is probably going to be that Viking training camp, which is an interactive play area with climbing towers, an agility course, and even a sheep launcher game. And as you can see, this is going to be a great way for kids to run off steam and for everyone to have some fun. The next ride that I want to talk about within this world is going to be Fire Drill. So this is an interactive boat ride where you can use water cannons to hit targets. I have to note though, you will absolutely get soaked. So be sure, if that's not your vibe, bring a change of clothes if you do plan to ride. And they do also have heaters nearby to help guests dry off. But another really fun one, and I think for kids who are right above 40 inches, this might be one of their favorite rides, Hiccup's Wing Gliders. I think this is the perfect family coaster. And if you watched my video ranking all of the rides at Epic Universe, this is actually my #1 ranked ride in the entire park. That's how much I really, really enjoyed this ride. And of course, we have to talk about Dragon Racers Rally. I was actually very surprised that Dragon Racers Rally had a 48 inches minimum height requirement, but that is going to be the third ride within this land. But I also think that one of the best shows in all of Orlando is in this land, and you do not want to miss it. And that is going to be the Untrainable Dragon. So this is a live stage show with no height requirement. It features amazing puppetry and special effects, bringing the films to life, and you get to sit back and trust me, you do not want to skip this show, especially if you have How to Train Your Dragon fans in your family. Just go watch this show. Be sure to come back to this video, leave a comment. You'll know exactly what I'm talking about when it happens. But also, there are some really, really fun character meet and greets within this land as well, where guests can meet Hiccup and Toothless. And I would also say to get here early if you want to avoid waiting a long wait for Toothless, because it is going to be one of the most popular meet and greets in all of Epic Universe. Okay, over to the next world, and we have Dark Universe, which is a mysterious realm with fun for all. So the two rides here are going to be the Curse of the Werewolf, which is a family-friendly spinning coaster, but it has a minimum height requirement of 40 inches tall. And then we also have Monsters Unchained, the Frankenstein Experiment, with a minimum height requirement of 48 inches tall. So one of the most popular things here is probably going to be another kind of add-on or upgrade within your day. And that is going to be the Darkmoor Monster Makeup Experience, where kids can get transformed into a monster with makeup or costumes. This is essentially the reverse of your traditional princess makeover, which is very popular over at Disney. The one thing I'm not crazy about though is it does have a pretty high price tag. I looked online and I believe it was around $170 for the full makeover, but I did see what they call the mini makeover that starts at $45, and that would just be to make over your face. But on top of that, there are also some character sightings that you want to keep an eye out for, where guests can encounter classic Universal monsters like Frankenstein, Bride of Frankenstein, and also Igor roaming the land. And I would also say that this was by far one of my favorite places to eat within all of Epic Universe. Over to the last world, and we have the Wizarding World of Harry Potter, Ministry of Magic, where guests can step into the 1920s Paris and the British Ministry. So the main ride here is going to be Harry Potter and the Battle of the Ministry, which has a minimum height requirement of 40 inches tall, and it's high energy and can be intense and cause nausea for some, so just be aware of that going in. But I would say give yourself some time to explore the queue even if you don't plan to go on this ride. Another really popular upgrade within the Wizarding World of Harry Potter is going to be the interactive wands. So Universal actually released Generation 2 interactive wands. The starting price here is going to be around $85 for the wand. However, your kids will be able to run around and essentially cast spells throughout the Wizarding World of Harry Potter, and they can also use those wands in the other Universal Orlando theme parks. Specifically, well, you have to be in the Harry Potter sections of the theme parks, but we have Hogsmeade Village over at Islands of Adventure, and we have Diagon Alley over in Universal Studios Florida. And another really popular tip and trick that we picked up online is you can bring a pencil eraser cap to prevent the sensor of the wand from breaking. And last but not least, don't forget to check out the second show within Epic Universe, which is La Cirque Arcanus, which is a circus show with no minimum height requirement, featuring aerialists, puppetry, and effects. And there are some really amazing illusions within this show. Okay, so those are the worlds, but what about some last tips and tricks for the day of? Well, of course, just like a lot of our tips and trick videos, one of my favorite things to always mention is to make sure that you arrive early. So we cannot stress this enough, especially during the opening months. Get there at least an hour before park opening, and that is especially true if you plan to go within Super Nintendo World to take advantage of those two rides that I had mentioned that are below 40 inches tall. Another important one is make sure everyone is staying hydrated and you can take breaks throughout the day. And that's where those power-up bands or the interactive wand can really come into play, because it could allow you to essentially just you'll not be waiting on the long lines and really just have a little bit more fun without your day. But definitely be sure to bring refillable water bottles, use the hydration stations found around the park. And Epic Universe does not have a lot of shade at this point in time, so be aware of that, especially if you're visiting with very young kids, infants and babies. You want to be sure that you plan for that, bring portable fans or cooling towels, make sure that everyone is prepared for the day. So another one of my favorite tips and tricks is if you don't plan to take advantage of early park admission, save Super Nintendo World for night. So one of the reasons here is, as you could see, if it's open for early park admission, and especially for families with young kids, it's going to be very popular. But if you don't plan to go then, I wouldn't go in the middle of the day. I would actually wait until a little bit later at night. It's pretty much the exact opposite. And the hope here is that you could take advantage of some lower wait times. Another really great tip and trick is that don't forget that Toadstool Cafe is a really well themed restaurant within Super Nintendo World. And I think it's one that your kids might love. On top of that, don't forget that you can bring your own stroller to the theme parks, or you can rent one when you arrive. So there's a lot of walking that goes into a day at Epic Universe. And strollers, of course, are really important when you're visiting with young kids. And once you get into the park, don't forget that there are test seats. If you're unsure about, your kids being comfortable or how well they're going to fit, within the ride itself, there are test seats right outside all of the major attractions that you can take advantage of. And don't forget to always download the Universal Orlando app. It's essential for check-in wait times, mobile food ordering, and one of the things I love to do within the app is to set reminders on when certain ride wait times might drop below a certain point. And like I said, if you are joining and you're doing either the power-up bands or the interactive wand, they are now all being tracked, and you can add it to the Universal Orlando app to get that much more out of your day. But that is it, everyone. That is essentially the best tips and tricks for visiting Epic Universe with young kids. I really hope that you found this video helpful. And as a thank you for sticking around all the way till the end of this video, I do have a special promo code you can go use on our website, theparkprodigy.com, to save an extra $50 off your next Universal Orlando theme park vacation. And that promo code is going to be MAGIC50. But thank you again so much for checking this video out. And until next time, I will talk to you soon.